It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name is Mike Royer.
And this week we're out purchasing our Ant-Man tickets, and you should be doing the same.
Cha-ching!
It's gonna be big. It's the Friday after Valentine's Day, so you take your loved ones, buy them all tickets, load them up, and go watch Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. The Mandalorian teases his return this week, Mike, and I believe one of the biggest trailers for a non-Star Wars movie in a long time. So we'll talk about that. The Last of Us debuted on HBO Max. I know this is the show you've been hyped for a very, very, very long time. I literally am fresh off watching this episode. Like, not even an hour ago did I wrap it up and more. And boy, is it Sunday! Like we literally this is the second time we've done the intro because I messed up the first one. So
Chris was at a theme park a couple of weeks ago. I'm fresh off of a theme park just about an hour ago. So we are coming in hot, but just like every Sunday, we're here, folks.
That's right.
Right? Last week we recorded just before The Last of Us show premiered, so now we're a little late to the party, but that's the great thing about the non-binge model, right? Last of Us will continue to feed us for the next 8 to 10 weeks. I don't remember how many episodes.
It's 9 episodes, so we have 2 more months of The Last of Us.
Yeah,
that'll cue us up to. I mean, a lot of stuff starting in the spring, so we'll actually have a lot going on, I guess, in parallel across the board. That's 2 Pedro Pascal shows at the same time, Mike.
He's all over the place. Yeah, so if you've yet to catch up with The Last of Us, no biggie. We're going to talk about it in all of its spoiler glory at the end of the episode, like we do with all of our TV reviews. So no worry about avoiding that, but stay tuned.
Yes, absolutely. So let's go ahead and jump in to not the news, but what I'm going to go ahead and pitch this week because this is the third iteration of a Kickstarter I backed from a game called Marvel United, Mike. And I send you this all the time whenever the first one came out and the second one because they have the little, it's kind of chibi-esque artwork and style for all the figures and the cards. And I know that you've mentioned like, oh, that's pretty cool, for artwork in a game to kind of embrace that for this. And this week the third, they're calling it season 3, is coming out, and it's called the Marvel United Multiverse. And the Multiverse, it adds some new features such as items for your characters, because before you were just the character, not the item, right? So if you're playing as possibly like a Jane Foster Thor or a Captain Carter, Captain America, who I believe are both in this, you get their items now, like the shield or the hammer, and they can do stuff on the board. But one of the other cool things is right out the gate, you get one of the sets is Galactus. You get a very, very tall Galactus figure that you get to play with, and 4 of the Heralds of Galactus in that, which I thought was really cool for them to, finally, we've had the Fantastic Four, we've had Silver Surfer, to just go ahead and give us a big Galactus set across the board out the gate for this.
Yeah. I'm just imagining you cross-legged, on the floor in your living room playing with your little figures. And, your wife is making you some, like, chicken fingers and some macaroni and cheese.
Hopefully it's dino-shaped chicken nuggets, one of my favorites, with that mac and cheese. And this is really cool because, what I think one of the cool parts but the disappointing parts is it's up to a 4-player game, and you play in a circle, like around it. So it's like perfect for playing around a table, right? Because the game board's a circle, but like the problem is it's only 4 people. So if you have 5 plus, you're like, well, we can't really play Marvel United, despite how cool this is. One of the other cool things before I jump in this, if you want to Kickstart it, it's on Kickstarter that you get the core set. I believe you can get them on Amazon for like $10 now because game's several years old. But they have added an Inhumans set that you can add on to this, and Mike, you know me, I love the Inhumans, so I was very excited to see a standalone Inhumans box that you can get with this one as well, or just buy it by itself. I guess you don't have to get the full set, so I thought that was really cool. But the fun thing about Kickstarters is every time they reach new stretch goals, right, we get a new figure, and I think they're up to like 20, 22, 23 extra figures so far. A lot of characters I've never heard of before. So they're starting to stretch, out there a little bit.
That's saying something for you too.
Yeah. And I believe they're kind of like in the X-Men realm, like X-Men space realm. And I'm like, okay, if you want to get, I think his name's Chod, CH''OD. I'm like, sure, go right ahead. I'm sure there's a fan or two of him out there. But it's. The sets, the quality is always there. The sets are cool. The figures, having something tangible to play with is really cool. So I'm backing that. And I recommend anyone who's looking for a 2 to 1 to 4 player game, check out the original that you can pick up, like I said, on Amazon for like $10 or less. It's pretty affordable. But jump into your exclusive sneak peek. One of a few people who got to go to Super Nintendo World early, Mike. Tell us about this.
Yeah, so there's a soft opening now. The official opening for the park is February 17th at Universal Studios Hollywood out here in Los Angeles. And this is kind of a special opening because it's the first time a Nintendo is opening a park in the United States. There is a park currently in Japan. That's the first place it opened a few years ago. So now this is the first time it opens up in the States. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but it is coming to Florida still, I believe. It's just not open yet. Not 100% sure.
I'm going to have to look this up. It says, originally, Epic Universe, which will house Florida's version of Super Nintendo Land, will open in 2025. Yes.
Yeah, so we finally have this opened up, and this was exciting, at least for me, because every time you go to Universal Studios out here, for the long time when you're taking the trip down the many escalators to the bottom part of Universal Studios Park, you just see this endless construction that has just been happening for years and years and years. I believe the first phase of the destruction was just getting rid of whatever was there, and then maybe they didn't know what was going to go in there yet. Then all of a sudden, Mario starts to get built up, so I got to go to a soft opening of it, which was pretty cool. And right now, there's really only 2 things to really do, 2 large attractions there, which one of them is the ride, which is Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge. And then the other one isn't even a ride. It's just the Toadstool Cafe. It's just like the restaurant in the area. So check it out today. The theming is very, very strong. Very cool. Like it's literally oozing Mushroom Kingdom in and out of its pores everywhere. I'm actually surprised it's called Super Nintendo World because it is 100% Mario World right now. There's no other Super Nintendo property that I can see, but I have heard that there is a rumored like Donkey Kong like roller coaster that is to be built and put in at some point in time. Don't know when that's happening, but theoretically that would be Super Nintendo and not Mario, but it would definitely be Mario adjacent, right? It would fit right at home. So I was sending pictures to you in our group chat when I was in the line for Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge, and the line is like themed very, very well. Like, whenever you enter one of these rides or one of these worlds that are new for the very first time, you almost don't want to go single rider. You don't want like an express fast pass into the ride. You kind of want to see the line, but you want the line to go quickly, right? So luckily we had that opportunity, and there are some pretty cool parts, especially once you get into Bowser's Castle. There's like these cool, like you were at CES just the other week, and you were telling me about these screens that were 3D that you could see without glasses. And they have those in line, which was really cool. There was like a little like factory belt of these bombs, right? That's what they're called.
Yeah, bombs. Yep.
And then there's also Shy Guys up there, and like some boos and ghosts up in the corner on some screen. So I was like, oh, this is really cool. At first, I didn't even notice them. So I was like, oh, this is what it's like. And then I tried to imagine it like 100 times larger. Like, oh, is this how James Cameron wants me to see like maybe the next 2 or 3 Avatar movies? So that was fun to see in person. And the physical like props from Mario, like realized in real life, is really cool too. It's just a really fun aesthetic. And the same thing with the Toadstool Cafe. Like all of the seats kind of have these chunky feeling with like these toadstool adornments on the top. And we were in a booth that had like a fake window that was a TV screen, and there was like toads running around. And everything feels very kind of like video game adjacent graphics, like it's almost like ported from a Switch, if you will. So
the music in some of the videos, I was immediately thinking of like the newer Mario games.
I was almost kind of hoping, though. I was like, this is like a brand new theme park. I get that everyone's super familiar with like the video games, but like I almost was kind of hoping for like maybe like some 4K 60 frames per second like HDR textures, just to make it a little bit more special. These are visuals you can only get if you go to the park, but I kept it moving through the lines and through the queues, and really the only thing left I have to review, because there's lots of other little things around in the park that we didn't have time to do because we only had a 2-hour time slot. And they have like a lot of mini games around the park, similar to how if you go to like Galaxy's Edge, there's like little mini games you can do with like your magic band on the walls.
Did you get a power band? The power up bands?
I didn't get a power band, but I there was like rumors through the grapevine that there might be power bands that you could get maybe for free if you're lucky enough in the soft opening, but we were bleeding daylight trying to get through this. So maybe next time when we go back. But I did see people with them and they're hitting the question blocks. But the only thing I really have to review here beyond like the theming and the aesthetics, which I would say are probably like 9 out of 10, would be the Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge ride. And this was kind of exciting for me because I didn't know anything about it. I didn't do any research. I had some friends that live out here that got to go to the park yesterday, and they were posting Instagram stories, and I was like, skip. I don't want to see. I'm going to be there tomorrow. So I knew it was like a Mario Kart, but what does that even mean? So I found out as we go through the line that there are 4 persons to a cart, but it's kind of tiered like a movie theater, right? So if you're stuck in the back seat, you still got a really good vantage point. It's not that big of a deal. But what you do before you get onto the cart, you know how some rides are 3D and you get 3D glasses ahead of time?
Yeah.
This is a ride that they give you like this band that has a little Mario cap on it that you strap around your head. And then they say this band will be where you magnetically stick your AR visor to once you get into the car. So it's like, okay, so I step into the cart, and then this visor is like manually wired into the car that you're in, so it's feeding data to the headset. So you snap the headset onto your thing that snapped and like screwed and tightened onto your head, similar to kind of like a VR headset strap. Then you kind of have these big like AR goggles that are over your head, and you move your head to kind of look around and like aim where you shoot your little shells and whatnot. And I think maybe you were shooting something else. I don't know. It was kind of hard to tell. The biggest downside of this ride is going to be the AR glasses, because you have this really cool physical space that your cart is moving through with these like cool 3-dimensional objects, and there's also big giant screens that are kind of molded into the scenery with things happening in it. And then you have this goggle in front of you that's showing you like very low grade graphics, right? You're kind of getting like the screen door effect on your AR elements. So you'll do something where you'll come across a physical element on the ride that kind of has like an empty space in it, and they attempt to fill that space with a graphical element on your AR goggles. But like there's a little bit of like placement jitter, right? So like if you look and don't move your head, it kind of works, but then the cart's moving, so everything in your screen is kind of vibrating on where it might be placed in the real world. So like they're trying to have like these carts like fly in front of you to try to give you the feeling of racing, but I never really got the feeling that I was actually in a Mario Kart race. If anything, I was just struggling to figure out what the heck was going on, because there's like buttons on your steering wheel that you can shoot the shells, and then you move your head to aim, but also there's like a steering element that I feel like they overemphasize in the like instructional video before you get on the ride, like, oh, make sure you're steering in the right direction. But I couldn't tell if I was steering wrong or right, and there's 4 people in the car, right? So it's just like, it's not like I'm the one turning the car. No one's turning the car. You're just trying to almost do like a quick time event to this arrow that pops up on your screen, and then at the very end you get like a prize point. So I was a little disappointed in the ride, and I would almost rather ride it without the AR glasses. Like, I don't know if that's a possibility. I don't know if there's a way to kind of like make the ride work without them. But it made me think back to the Harry Potter ride that's at the very same park that opened. And when it opened, it had 3D glasses on it. And then eventually they ditched the 3D glasses, and they're just like, everyone's getting too sick on this ride with these. So this is a little bit of a different scenario. You're not going to get sick on this ride at all. But yeah, it was kind of like a mixed bag, right? Because I had never experienced AR goggles before. So I was kind of excited to see what they were like. And it was still kind of a cool magic trick, right? But I just don't think it melded well with the ride.
So I'm watching a video of it online with the AR, right? Like you mentioned, and honestly, because the AR is limited to the glass you're looking through, like I can see like how you can like if it goes off of the screen, it just disappears, right?
Yeah,
and that's kind of to me taking me out of this experience because I wish it was like maybe if they put the AR glass, like maybe your cart was in a bubble. Right, and the AR glass was around the cart that you're in, and you could just look around full 360. I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, it's just there's too much freedom of movement within the ride, so it just kind of felt like I was trying to experience a ride, and somebody just kept trying to shove pop-up ads in front of my face, but they're like Mario Karts instead. So I don't know, maybe somebody else had more of a fun time. I would still recommend it, right? I mean, come on, you're not going to be able to get to this park any other place until it opens up down in Florida, or you're going to have to get a flight all the way over to Tokyo, right? The theming is super cool. But then I was talking with my wife when we were leaving, and I was like, sometimes I do need to remind myself, though. I am judging this through the lens of like a mid-30-year-old man who has experienced like high-level theme parks before. I'm like very into all of this stuff, and I'm judging it just a little too harshly. So sometimes I try to remember like what would it be like if I was 12 years old on vacation, so I didn't literally live out here, and I'd never experienced like a theme park before or anything like this, and I was on a family trip. So yeah, I think I'm just being a little too harsh on it.
Like I'm gonna agree with you based on your footage and photos from before and today. I am whelmed. I'm not overwhelmed. I'm not underwhelmed. I'm just whelmed at what I'm looking at. Right. I think the theming is fantastic. It's there, but like it's not enough to like I want to be doing something. Right when I'm there, I want to be interacting and expecting the highest quality kind of experience, like you mentioned, and everything I've looked at, I'm like, this is fine. I don't need to rush out there and see it right away. I can wait until the hype has died down a bit and probably go and be okay to experience it that way. But like, I'm the same with you. I'm just like, meh, this is cool, but like, it's not life changing for me, I guess. Maybe I don't know if you feel the same way. I would recommend if you get a chance to do the Mario Kart arcade games. I don't know if you've ever raced on those. Those are fantastic games to race in. But no, that's cool. Anything? I mean, what is your biggest takeaway? What's I guess the best character you saw there? It'd be my question for you.
Well, they only had one walk around character while I was there, and just asterisks on this whole thing. It was a soft opening, so who knows exactly what gets turned on or turned off once the public is finally, welcomed in. But there was a Princess Peach walking around that was really, really cool. And my wife specifically said, "Take a video of that thing up there." And I'm like, "What thing?" She's like, "That goofy little ball thingy." And I was like, "Oh, the thing that is kind of like it's like the 3-tiered cactus character."
Yeah.
And it was like it was pretty cool. So I did take a video of it. So all the little cool animatronics moving around in the scenery, it's a cool vibe. The sconces for Bowser's castles were cool, and I sent you a picture of those.
Yeah, I like the Yoshi on the open world, like because it's got the Mario's known for his big hills right in the background, and they build the hills up. Yoshi looked pretty cool to me. I thought that was a nice little touch. But I'm a big fan of Yoshi. If I do Mario Kart, I'm always doing Yoshi. So well, thanks, Mike, for telling us about this wide opening for Super Nintendo World, which asterisk Super Mario World only right now. So yeah, maybe they'll get like a Smash Brothers thing going, or
that would be sick.
I think call me biased, Pokemon would be fun.
Oh yeah, when I was in the queue for the Mario Kart ride, I just kept thinking, oh man, it would be so cool to be in like a themed Pokemon ride queue, like with just little Pokemon popping up around the corners and stuff. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you've played on the Toy Story Mania rides, right, at Disney. The ones, imagine like that, but you're flinging Pokeballs instead of like stuff and everything. I think those rides are fun, but. Anyway, we're gonna get our hopes up. So let's jump into the news here. First and foremost, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, as is tradition, a week after the trailer, they dropped the tickets. So you can go ahead and get your tickets for this February 17th or 16th if you're going on the Thursday release. And then also, because of that, there's a lot more information coming about this movie. It's moving into the press cycle. Paul Rudd has called it the Ragnarok of the Ant-Man franchise, and that's pretty exciting, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's high praise. Everybody loves. Everybody agrees, right? Yeah. Ragnarok is the best, most entertaining Thor movie. So
yeah, Thor 1, okay. Thor 2, not my favorite movie. Probably my least favorite movie to watch when we're doing Marvel rewatches. Ragnarok totally flips the script, and I'm glad to see that they're seeing it that way as well over there. And a couple of images came out here. They were on thing, but the only one I want to pull out here is there's a picture of Michael Douglas as Hank Pym with a gun that looks very similar to Star-Lord's gun from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh yeah, or if you were oblivious, it kind of looks like a gun out of Halo as well.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's the two things are I guess U-shaped, and you hold the bottom of the U-shape, but it looks very similar to Star-Lord's, except it's up, like Star-Lord's is upside down the other direction. So I'm not gonna say there's a connection between them, but wouldn't be surprised either one way if they're like, we got element guns down here. We do the same thing. So
yeah, really curious the rules and kind of how the quantum realm works in general. Right? It looks like outer space, but it ain't. It ain't outer space.
It's inner space, kind of like the other direction. So yeah, absolutely, very very excited to dive into that. So Ant-Man and the Wasp. Is that our next review? I think it's our next review, right? That's the next
I think
release.
so. And then I think it would be Shazam after that.
Yep. So Quantumania is dropping and again kicks off Phase 5 of the MCU with the return of Jonathan Majors as Kang, or a variant of He Who Remains. Let's jump into Armor Wars. There's some
Jarmor Wars.
Jarmor Wars. The where they really over tighten the jars and they just can't get them open. Armor Wars will apparently be happening, this movie, because of Space Secret Invasion. So Secret Invasion leads into Armor Wars. Now, we do know Secret Invasion is our first series being released this year by Marvel on Disney+, so we're anxiously awaiting the date, I suppose. So maybe they'll take that for the Super Bowl. I think that'd be a great Super Bowl ad to give us that date. But rumor is governments will start using the Stark tech or the Stark Iron Man suits to fight the Kree and Skrull because of Secret Invasion. But Rhodey, obviously War Machine, will step in to stop that because he wants to carry on Iron Man's legacy, Tony's legacy of not using his technology for war. So that sounds fairly normal. Yeah,
I mean I think it's a pretty easy way to tell the story, not in a bad way, but it makes the most sense, right? If your humanity, that is just your only hope, is just a handful of super powered or tactically advanced beings that you can't really control in any way, you just kind of hope they have a good faith. It might be if you were like a military general who's like quickly losing power, over people that invade Earth. Like, you might need an army of armored suits.
This would be a great opportunity to bring back Justin Hammer, right, played by Sam Rockwell. Maybe redeem him a little bit from his Iron Man 2 showing. But what I really want to see out of this movie, Mike, and I think you'll agree, is if the other governments are using Iron Man suits, right, or Iron Man-esque suits, they need to be like super different. Like, I want every one of them to be distinctly different visually and not just a recolored Iron Man suit over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, I know this is too goofy, but I think of the G Gundam series where they had all of these Gundam fighters from different countries, and they were just kind of like oozing in like Miss America pageant style, right? Like, if you were the Gundam from America, it was a giant robot with a cowboy hat on.
Yeah, and I'm going to lean back into the more, like, I guess, serious fare and do Pacific Rim, right? All the Jaegers represented different countries or different regions, and they were all uniquely different. Like, some had two, like, one of them, I think, had two heads and, like, 4 arms and stuff like that. So, like, if they're going to be doing this, like lean into the visuals of the suits being drastically different.
Yeah, and I like that in a sense of, like you were saying, not even just like the aesthetics of the suit, but why does one have to have normal human-like features? Maybe one could have like a really built-out, cool, like grappling arm that it's like doesn't look humanoid at all.
Yeah.
That would be rad.
Yeah, like War Machine, he's always got that big Gatling gun on his shoulder, right? Like that's his distinct feature. He is a literally war machine full of guns and bullets and missiles. And we didn't get a lot of his super suit in game, despite the fact we like saw him pop up out of the ground with Rocket on it later in the movie. But like I think there's a huge opportunity to just be not crazy, but like just be cool, like have some fun with it and really step outside of that zone a little bit. I know they never showed off any of the stealth suits in the Iron Man movies, so there might be an opportunity for like some espionage Iron Man suits that are more invisible. That'd be pretty fun. So yeah, I just honestly the biggest news out of here is when are we getting Secret Invasion, right? When is Don Cheadle going to come back and get he got an award for what or nominated for, like, was it a Golden Globe or something for his like 45 seconds in Falcon Winter Soldier? So so bring it back in. Let's check that out. And spinning off of that, talking about Falcon Winter Soldier, Captain America: New World Order. We talked about the Serpent Society last week. Well, apparently they will be introduced in Captain America: New World Order first, kind of leading credence to that theory we posited about them possibly being like the second movie villains, like overall, for Sam Wilson. And then the character Diamondback will be the first confirmed member of this. And this is not the same Diamondback that we had in Luke Cage, right? Because they had the Cottonmouth and Diamondback as the two snake-themed villains there, even though they weren't really snake-themed. So
I do kind of remember that, yeah.
Yeah, so they're going to lean a little bit more into the snake, I guess, trope or whatever we're saying here. Like,
yeah, I would imagine the Serpent Society is going to be kind of more in line of like Hydra in a way. They weren't literally Hydras. It was just kind of more of like a metaphorical like marching order,
Yeah. Hey, do you have a favorite kind of snake? If not, you better pick one real quick because that's what your entire fighting style and costume is going to be based on. So again, I think some of them were, again, like I said, Earth Mightiest Heroes was where I had the most interaction with them. They kept coming back. I think that they had some really cool. It sounds like one was like a boa constrictor, and the other one was like a more of a poison one, so on and so forth. But honestly, Diamondback and this image I have in our show notes, you can check that out, doesn't even look like a snake. She just literally looks. She had a bright pink suit and some diamonds on it. So I think she's the leader. But yeah, we'll keep you guys posted on that. I think this movie, again, introducing Harrison Ford as Thunderbolt Ross has got some good stuff going for it. The return of the leader, a whole bunch going on here. So we'll keep you guys posted as they move through that. Agatha, Coven of Chaos is currently filming, Mike. They are off the ground doing scenes in a mall. We got Catherine Hahn and I don't know this other kid's name. It's Joe something. We don't know who he's playing. But they are filming in a quote Westview mall. Westview is the town where Agatha was put under spell by the Scarlet Witch before we left here, and it looks like they're having a lovely luncheon, possibly 90s, based on that cup style. Do you see that art on that cup, the blue and purple
possibly
steel? So, anything you make out of this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious how much the show stays in Westview. Like in Westview, Westview's more entertaining to me, right? When it's bewitched and it's going through like different timelines, right? Mm-hmm. I can't imagine you stay there for an entire another show. The town itself wasn't special in a way, right? Now that being said, like I always say, good writing can make anything entertaining. So I'm not saying no, but like similar to how I don't want to stay on desert planets in Star Wars if I don't have to. I would imagine she once she maybe kind of breaks her spell or her, whatever is controlling her, she will be off across the country, maybe back into like Salem,
Right. Well, I guess the thing is, and one of my biggest complaints about WandaVision, right, is Agatha just happened to be in the right town at the right time when Wanda had her breakdown, right? Like to be there. So I think there possibly could be a way to explain that in this show. Like, hey, we are in Westview because of X reason. Now, I agree with you. She doesn't need to stay there, but, like, maybe we will find out there was a reason she stayed in that town or was there to begin with. Because maybe it's a source for dark energy. I don't know. But yeah, like I said, there's no... Other than that town, having, all the people being under a spell, right, for a while and being in pain, there's real no reason for them to be there. They could literally go anywhere else in the world. Along the way. So I'm also feeling, and we don't have to dive into too much, after Wanda died or supposedly died in Doctor Strange is when her spell broke on Agatha. I think is what we're going to find.
And maybe that's what happens at this scene. She's sitting at the table, just having a normal day, and then all of a sudden she snaps and the spell is gone.
She's like, why am I in this mall drinking these cups with this dude? I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, check out that photo. It's in our show notes. Also in our show notes, you can find the newest, or I guess latest trailer for the season 3 of The Mandalorian. Dropped on Monday during the NFL wildcard playoff games. It's a fun trailer. I'm going to be honest. To me, Mike, this felt safe, like a safe trailer, right? Like, hey, here are the cool Mandalorians with all the colorful outfits. Here is Grogu and the Mandalorian doing stuff in their spaceship. Here's Carl Weathers. He's the president of or mayor of whatever city he's in at the moment. So I felt like it played it like, hey, here's the usual suspects, right? What you expect out of the Mandalorian show. And then they did throw in some cool shots of Mandalore and Coruscant as well, I thought. But, I couldn't really get a lot out of it, but that's not bad. We know more is coming, right? Like we know.
Yeah, it didn't have that screen grab moment that I'm kind of always looking for. When these new trailers come out, when I'm thinking about talking about on the show, and it almost kind of swelled at the very end where I thought like, oh, maybe there'll be like one last like shot of a new character reveal or something at the end of
the Praetorian Guards or something cool.
And that just didn't come. So yeah, I feel like we're waiting for the show to drop.
Yeah, and season 3, I believe, is that March 1st? Is that what I last saw? It's on this trailer. I need to do better on my notes here because I didn't. March 1st. It's March 1st. So yep. But this has also been confirmed to have an 8-episode season yet again, and it'll feature the usual suspect directors: Rick Famuyiwa, Rachel Morrison, Lee Isaac Chung, Carl Weathers, Peter Ramsey, and Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah, Peter Ramsey is really cool, though, and I really like this announcement because Peter Ramsey was one of the co-directors for the first Spider-Verse movie, and I think this is really awesome because Dave Filoni comes from an animation background, so I love that he's just like, I'm looking for directors. They don't have to be live-action directors. Heck, half of the stuff that makes it to Disney Plus is getting touched up by some sort of animated visual effect anyway, so I don't understand why an animation director can't be in here behind the camera anyway. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that Peter Ramsey episode is like. So that's a really cool announcement.
And just a reminder, he also has one for Ahsoka. He was hired as one of the directors for Ahsoka as well, so... he's really getting his feet wet, and I did pull him up here again, looking at his history for director, 7-8 movies, but his history as a storyboard artist goes on for days.
Yeah, he's got something going on at Netflix too, because there's a Netflix office not too far from my place, and I was running over to the store one day, and I recognized the guy because I follow him on Twitter, so I'm familiar with what his face looks like. So the dude walking down the sidewalk right outside the Netflix building, I'm just like, hey, you got something going on over there. And I almost rolled down my window and yelled at him, but I'm sure he doesn't get catcalled that often from the road.
Yeah, that'd be pretty funny. He's got Lost Ollie over there. It was a show on Netflix. Have you seen that? An animated show?
Have not heard of it.
Okay. It's about a lost rabbit toy, Ollie, and finds himself lost and found at an antique shop. Sounds like Toy Story 4. Just saying that out loud. But it's narrated by Jonathan Groff, so maybe he was following up with doing more of that. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I think that's great. I think again, I don't have a problem with the Mandalorian show, right? Is where we kind of started to feel rough was around the Boba Fett show, right? All the sand, all the usual going back to the same places over and over again. So having these people in there be fine, fine by me at the end of the day. So check out that trailer if you haven't, and get ready to return to that. That'll be our second Pedro Pascal show going on at the same time. He has just taken over everything we're talking about these days. Let's shift gears into the DC universe, and this is an article, I guess, possibly I think maybe on Twitter, where James Gunn has gone on about, everyone's asking who's going to be Superman, who's going to be playing these roles in your new DCU, right? And literally the dude's had the job like 3 months. Like I don't think he has casting down yet. Like they're probably still going through this, figuring this out. But he did say that casting what matters most is that the actor is easy to work with, is one of the things he said. So
shot
cool.
Across the bow for Ezra Miller, possibly.
Yeah, could be. He might not have. Yeah, he may have been hard to work with. I don't know. I think that's more maybe a shot at Zack Snyder, and possibly what was the other the guy in Justice League, Cyborg, who's complained about everything since that movie.
Ray Fisher.
Ray Fisher. Yeah. So it could be them. But he, remember, I'm gonna go back and say he said that we would have our first wave of announcements before the end of January, and we are less than 2 weeks away from this.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I know James Gunn does not listen to our show, but we publish it for free out there on the internet, so there is a chance that he could listen. And I would like to give him one piece of advice, and that is the age-old adage for the internet, and that is just don't tweet. I mean, it's getting to the point where I feel like he's humoring the audience maybe a little bit too much and being a little too approachable. I think he should just let his work speak for himself. Like, just I'm sure you are getting countless notifications at all seconds of the day. So at this point in time, you might as well just turn off the notifications on Twitter. They shouldn't even really matter to you anymore. And I would just say, like, just stop making announcements and stop doing these things on the internet. Like you have now elevated to a new echelon in Hollywood where you are now too important to just like take the time to do any of this kind of stuff. So just put the phone down, just let it all to like the PR and marketing department of the studio that you run now, and everything will be fine. It's worked well for Feige. It's worked well for other people that have run studios. That's just in my opinion. I see it going down a road that does not end up being healthy for the fandom in the future. So I just put out your first movie, your first project that you're in charge of on the DCU. I'm sure it'll be great, and then we won't have to worry anymore.
Yeah, I'm just kind of going through. He's not posting every day, so I get. That's a good sign, right? Like he's just putting out things every once in a while. To me, again, he was fired from Marvel for his older tweets, so I think maybe he is being more cautious, if you will, right, about some of his stuff. But he is out here. I guess I wouldn't say doing the Rock thing. He's promoting everything he's doing, right? He's got Peacemaker. He's got DC stuff on HBO Max. He's got his Guardians thing coming up through here. So yeah, he's doing a lot doing that, and it's fun to see. I'm glad he is at least talking to his fans, and he's not encouraging. Like you said, like they're not doing the Snyderverse thing, right? Like he's not encouraging. I'm just telling you,
it's just going to take one tweet, right? Where maybe he hasn't had his coffee in the morning. Maybe some random crazy fan has said something that just rubs him the wrong way. He's going to tweet something with just the wrong phrasing or the wrong like verb, and everyone's going to be like freaking out, and he's just going to be like, I shouldn't have tweeted. I should have just left the phone down. So that's my plea to him.
He has done 10 tweets that I can count this month, and most of them are celebrating Catterday, if you will. He has a cat that he likes to post. So I lean that I don't think he'll go off that rail. But at the same time, I just want to know what he's doing. Like I'm excited to hear what he's going to be announcing. Right? Like, hey, they've got a plan. They've made this. Let's hear what the first phase is. We have no DC movies lined up for 2024 yet on our plate. Maybe the Joker. I haven't looked into that too much, but I don't really count that, right? That's not the DCU proper. So if we're gonna hear anything out of James Gunn by next week, I really hope it's like, hey, here's what we're doing next year for you guys. Let's kick it off.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be talking about it on next week's episode.
Yeah, I'll tell you who's been talking to him. my man, Jason Momoa, I guess your man, he said that to you. He had a video that he posted online that praises James Gunn, Peter Safran, and David Zaslav. So it sounds like he had a meeting with them. He said he was referencing when he went and talked to him 4 years ago. I don't know what 4 years ago. Aquaman started filming a lot longer than that. So
yeah, I don't know
what
it
he's talking about.
A sequel, or I don't know.
Maybe, yeah, the success of the first movie, maybe. Yeah, so he has this big long video where he just kind of talks about him, and he's very hyped and yelling woo. So couldn't really pull anything out of it. You can view that link in our notes. But the other thing is, people are asking him, and he's like, I'll always be Aquaman. And later in that same sentence, he said, I can play other things too, referencing the DC universe. So is this his Lobo reference? Is this what everyone's up in arms about? Like, oh my gosh, Jason Momoa's going to play Lobo and Aquaman.
I feel like I'm looking at it almost as like, this is like almost like a chopping block, right? Where you find out at the office they're doing layoffs, and all of your coworkers have these individual meetings set with the boss, and you're all kind of looking at them as they walk out the door after their meeting. Oh, was it a good meeting or a bad meeting? Have they fired? Or have they fired them, or are they coming back, right? This kind of feels like a more high-class situation like that. Like maybe, Momoa's going into this meeting going like, oh, are they going to can me? Are they canning Aquaman 3? Are they pressing forward with this new DCU? What's going to happen? So he goes in there maybe thinking he's kind of like, quote-unquote, getting fired. Then he's like, no, we want you to be Lobo. We're not going to do any more Aquaman because we're shifting this whole universe, but we can use you in other things. And he's just like, all right, my man, I didn't get fired. Yeah. And then he makes a hype video when he leaves the meeting.
I guess he's doing both. They might give him an Aquaman 3, right? But like it'll be a James Gunn Aquaman 3. Because I feel in theory, watching the first one, it's not really tied to Zack Snyder's, right? Like remember how like Mara even has a different accent in each movie, like Zack Snyder's versus that, and like like they can talk underwater, but in Zack Snyder's movie they had to make the air bubble kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I feel like they could continue along the roads. I think they're building relationships with these actors to do as much as they can as frequently as they can. We talked about this last week, right, on Netflix. Or maybe we didn't talk about. Maybe I talked to somebody else this week. Netflix did like a preview of their upcoming movies, right, this year. Mm-hmm. It's the same actors in every fucking movie, like literally everything. They had the same actors, and 11 from Stranger Things is now doing an action horror film, and Henry Cavill keeps coming back, and all these other people. So I'm like, yeah, they're trying to build, I guess, a roster of repeatable actors that can bring in monies, but. If they want to do Lobo with Jason, I don't care. You probably agree. I don't care. Just do it. Make it good. As long as it's good, I don't care who's playing the character at the end of the day, right? Like,
yeah, I feel like at this point in time with the DC, I'm not worried about like the minor, macro details, if you will. I'm just like don't just like turn the ship around. You gotta like dig it up from the bottom of the ocean and patch it and put a new
Jack Sparrow that shit. This is your Black Pearl.
Yeah, exactly. You got to uncurse the ship. You got to go collect all the coins. Mm-hmm. Like that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and honestly, if it's not the mainstay characters, right? Like if it's not Wonder Woman, if it's not Aquaman, that's fine. Marvel did fine building up their C and B list characters for a long time, and James Gunn brought literally the C list Guardians of the Galaxy, who only had like maybe 2 series ever, and his iteration was only the second series. To the spotlight right now. Everyone knows who Star-Lord is and Rocket and Groot. So huge opportunity for them to do fun things over there and have a great time. I want to talk about The Flash, Mike. The Flash movie is I want to watch it just to get it out of the way and see what this thing is, right? Like I want to know what's going on. Why was this thing delayed for 10 years? What Ezra Miller is going on here? We got Michael Keaton returning. Ezra Miller's playing 2 different characters from the trailers. There's a Supergirl and a Zod, and I'm like, God, this movie is wild. It has everything in it from every direction going on. And as such, we don't know really who the villain is, right? At the end of this day, we haven't seen anything. We haven't seen trailers. We know the trailer is coming to the Super Bowl next month, the weekend before Ant-Man. But toys are starting to come out, right? You go to the store, you start to see toys, and what do toys have? All the characters in them. Mm-hmm. And The Flash has 4 characters mentioned on the back. There's Batman, The Flash, the other Flash, and what appears to be the villain. And this may be spoilers for some. If you don't want to know who the villain is, You can skip ahead. We use time codes for everything, Mike. But I see you've clicked on this link. I see your cursor has clicked on this link and looking at this image. And spoilers again. Boy, they're just pulling one right out of the TV show playbook here with the Dark Flash. Like 3 Flashes and a Batman. What's going on?
Well, yeah, I had to look into it real quick because I was like, well, no, the Savitar is different from where I was watching in the CW, so I had to look it up. And when the Dark Flash enters the CW show, I believe I stopped watching at that point in time. So I don't think I've seen this iteration of it.
This was season 2 of the Flash.
Oh, so it's the other way around. It's been so long since I've seen it. I have forgotten about it.
Yeah, so this is the one that was, remember, I think it was season, like, he's always running and, like, there's always, like, a black, like, zombie-looking one chasing him around. This is the zombie, like, Speed Force one.
Okay, I'm looking at some more shots from the CW show. It's looking a little bit more familiar.
Yeah. So he, I believe, it's tied to Savitar, but, like, he's hunting down Savitar as well because they're also, you know, trying to stop things. So,
well, I think there's the bigger takeaway from this image here is what's captioned as the Flash young Barry.
Yeah.
Because it's where you finally get to see kind of another look at the Batman cowl with the Flash kind of icon spray painted over it, and this toy looks super goofy. So I don't know. They
all do that. The Flash in the upper right, his neck is like a giraffe, man.
Oh,
look at that.
Yeah, so, but, I mean, the Batman, he doesn't look too bad.
Oh, they've been making those toys for 30 years, Mike.
Yeah, they got that down.
Batman.
Yeah, those factories across seas got that down to a science. The Dark Flash has some sort of, like, crystalline structure kind of coming up.
Like a Doomsday mixed with a Flash, and then, like, you know.
I mean, it looks spooky. Like, I'm trying to imagine it translating from plastic to the big screen, and it could be cool.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think there's opportunity there because both of those Barrys, even though this is the same actor, right? They're both played by Ezra Miller. Like their faces both look different, right? So this Dark Flash, the toy's not representative of it, but it is, you know, disappointing to know there are 3 Flashes in this movie, and you know, not that the TV show literally has done everything, so there's nothing new they could possibly put in here other than include this Batman. But I really want to see him in action, but. You know, I was hoping for something else, but it's fine. We'll take it, right? I'm not losing sleep over the Flash movie this year.
Agreed.
By any means. Let's talk Tron 3 called Tron Ares. I don't know why they call it Ares. It hasn't been explained yet, but it is moving forward. This threequel is moving forward at Disney with Jared Leto starring. Woo! Disappointment. We've been talking about this since 2017. I went and looked up our notes when they first announced this. That Jared Leto was pushing for Tron 3 at Disney. It was 2017, so we are in our 6th year of talking about this movie, and it is officially moving forward.
The fandom around Tron is so interesting to me, right? Because me and you, Chris, we are too young in order to kind of be amazed and dazzled by the original Tron. You know, we can definitely respect what it's done, right?
Absolutely.
You know, and we can watch it and kind of appreciate even, like, the quirkiness of it now and kind of like, oh, you know, they were trying their best back then, and this was amazing.
They were pioneering, you know, visual effects at the time, as we saw.
Exactly. And then, you know, our current generation got the sequel that is primarily remembered for maybe kind of like the first de-aged scene, maybe not the first, but maybe the most eyeballs on a de-aged actor, and then of course the Daft Punk soundtrack.
The Daft Punk,
nobody really remembers the movie for anything else. You know, it was kind of neat. You know, Olivia Wilde was a program that came into the real world, so at least they tried to do something clever with it. So really, there's not a whole lot to be loved here, but I am curious where it goes, right? You know, I would say the status quo of aesthetics for Tron would be the last Tron movie that came out, so I don't imagine a big visual overhaul, but who knows, maybe if they go into like a different type of system or computer program, you know, maybe things look a little different. Maybe it's a little less blue, neon. Maybe it shifts to a different color. I don't know.
It possibly could be, you know, maybe they're bringing over the Morbius effects guys. There's more clouds. and
Hey, those effects are cool. That's not even a joke. I would be okay with that.
Well, right, but it may be different in there. We are doing cloud computing, Mike. Huh? Huh?
Oh God.
Okay.
So
This is like Wreck-It Ralph levels of puns here for this internet stuff here. But
yeah. So
Jared
how
Leto-
do we feel about Jared Leto? Yeah.
I don't love him. I never have liked this guy in anything he's ever done. My favorite scene in Fight Club is when he just gets the shit beat out of him, right? Like by the main character. So like I don't love him. He has tied himself to a lot of old properties that have been renewed, right? You've not seen Blade Runner 2049, but he is a main character in that. You know, he's done Morbius. What else has he done that's, you know, tied to again that's come out well, you know, recently?
I mean,
right?
I don't really have any ill will towards Jared Leto as a person. I do think it's funny that he's reached a point where we can make fun of him when it comes to his hard kombucha or his role as Morbius. Yeah. I am working my way right now through American Psycho. I had never seen it before, so I think I'm watching it in chunks. And he is so baby. He's such a baby in it that I didn't even recognize him at first when he was on screen. And I suppose if you don't like Jared Leto, this is a movie to watch because he gets axed by Christian Bale in the movie very brutally. I mean, the camera cuts away, so you don't get to see it, but it's implied. So yeah, I don't have any ill will towards him. So he is not like
the Joker. He was the fucking Joker. God damn. I was like, what do I hate him for the most is relevant to this podcast? The Joker.
I don't blame him for that, though.
I do.
He's not the one that pitched the tattoo on his forehead.
I think he has done amazing work in the late 90s, early 2000s, right? He had an emo rock band that did really well in the early 2000s, and people stopped telling him no. And when they stop telling you no, what happens? You become full of yourself and think you can do anything. And I think that's where he is. I literally think that's where he is, because he did what was a House of Gucci where he wore the makeup and pretended to be the old Italian man. So like, but I totally believe the Joker is his fault. I believe it was his idea of pitching it, and he was sending those used condoms to people on like his co-actors, whatever.
I forgot about that story.
That's him. That's nobody else doing that. So anyway, back to what you were saying. I it's not him personally, but I think he has reached, you know, we should be concerned about his involvement in this, but he could swing the other way, right, and come out the other side just fine in a Tron movie. I
mean, I don't know if it's been clarified whether he's going to be the protagonist or antagonist. He's just set to star in it, so we'll see how it goes.
He'll make himself the
another Tron movie. I guess those the Light Cycle ride that's hitting Disney World here in America has a little bit more staying power.
I've seen it, and I've seen it work, and that thing looks really cool with the light cycles because they were doing the demo runs on it, like nobody on it. And I was taking the people mover around, and the way like it works up and down, and it's actually a game. The point is to, while you're writing it, you're getting points for your teams as well, because you're like doing the red versus or the blue versus yellow. And I believe this is already in. What did I say? Was it Disney Japan? I believe they've already have it, so you can see. Go on YouTube and see how that works over there. It looks really cool. It's in Tomorrowland, right next to Space Mountain. It's the most modern looking thing there. It looks awesome. But I'm gonna butcher this name. He is Swedish. It's like Joaquin Ronig is rumored to direct the movie. He co-directed the last Pirates of the Caribbean movie. With somebody else, and he also solo directed the Maleficent Mistress of Evil, so he has got his foot in the door at Disney by a long shot. So I don't think, you know, if I'm going to be honest, both those movies extremely CGI heavy, and you don't think about the CGI when you watch them, right? I think that's if they're going to do anything with Tron, hopefully that's it. Invincible, Mike, did you watch this video? I forgot to tell you this is a video here for Invincible.
I did. I would say a PSA for it. It landed in my timeline because people were kind of using this promotional video for season 2 of Invincible as like a benchmark for what the animation is going to look like in season 2.
It looks like lower quality, maybe.
People were. I mean, the animation quality in this promo is very, very good. I liked it, but this is not going to be what season 2 looks like on every single frame. Right? This is a promotional video that was put together, I'm sure, by a separate team just to promote the next season. And you could tell they had to put something together, right? Because the show's not done. And that's what they say in this, right? They're like, hey, the season's not ready yet, but should hopefully come out at some point in time this year. can't give you an exact date, and I have no footage to show you.
It's
so
very,
we're gonna hide.
It's very meta, right? It's like it's sitting with Alan the alien and him, and they're like at a restaurant and he's like, so when's it coming? And then he's like, well, we got to do all this stuff, and it literally like does the meta thing where it like breaks down like the sketches to storyboards to the pre-sales, the voice recording, and all the stuff. Like you can kind of peel back the layers, right, and see that, and that was really cool to see that with Stephen Yeun doing the voice, and then Seth Rogen is Alan as well. I don't if people don't remember that. So I thought it was cool. I thought it was really fun, right? Like to be meta and Invincible. It's a hyperbolic series, right, as well, like in terms of like the violence and the like this, I guess, the super people in this world. So I'm excited to know it, but it is late 2023. Like everyone's gonna have to wait a little while longer for this show to come out.
Yeah,
so.
It's funny. People always complain about wait times, but then when there's a filler scene, right, in Invincible where they're not doing like 60 frames per second, crazy high intense action. It's like, hey, come on. It's just like, well, you wanted them to come out with this next season sooner rather than later.
And I believe they also did season 3 at the same time, right? They greenlit 2 and 3. So they could do all the voice acting and get the actors in, and then do all the animation as well. So I believe the wait for season 3 will be much shorter.
Possibly. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I had a great time with the first season. It's always an interesting guttural body experience to be watching something that goes from like 0 to 10 and violence wise, right? It's always like, whoa, okay, I forgot.
It pulls literal and metaphorical no punches in that regard. So if you're looking for some, I just can't wait for the Invincible memes to come out. Like all the memes that came out of that first season, like literally,
oh my gosh,
they were all over the place.
Chris, talking about memes, I know I was just talking about American Psycho. I'm like halfway through the movie, and the first half has been memed like already. Yeah. I already knew everything that had happened already because of memes.
Yeah, you've been memed to death. So yeah, Invincible season 2, late 2023. All right, let's jump into our last topic for the day. Our last topic for the day is The Last of Us. The series has debuted on HBO Max with the first episode. The second episode just dropped 40 minutes ago, Mike. I saw the notification on ChrisFlix that it has been downloaded to watch. Even though I have HBO Max, I still like to pull it in there. And real quick, I just want to jump into this. It is the second biggest debut on HBO Max since 2010, with the first being the House of the Dragon, is that right? House of the Dragon, which was, I think, last year, early last year or late last year, either way. So, huge call for people who are fans of this game series. The original, the remake, and the sequel, all on PlayStation 3. Is it 3s and 4s? PlayStation 3 and 4s, where both of these exist?
3, 4, yeah,
and 5. The 5
theoretically 5, yeah. And that's great poll. That's great numbers, especially from something that is a video game property. Yeah. Even though video games can be some of the best selling and most profitable forms of media, that still doesn't mean there is enough there to necessarily transcend to, I would say, the broader consumer market, right?
And if you try to duplicate, there's a lot of games that are like story games, right? Like you're playing a movie is what it feels like. Even if you translate that one for one, sometimes that just doesn't work. You're right. It loses the luster. And I've not played the games, but I do know I've seen articles on like, here are the differences between the show and the movie or the series, and no one seems to be complaining. It's just pointing them out, right? Like here's some things that you may notice along the way.
Yeah, I chatted with a friend today about this first episode of The Last of Us, and they are a Last of Us super fan. They have played both games with the kind of a spin-off bonus content many times. They have a Last of Us tattoo. They are all up in this, and flying colors, big ups, thumbs up. Great reviews for the first episode from them. They're very much looking forward to watching the second episode tonight. From my point of view, from somebody that just played each game once, so just very casual fan, enjoyed it as well. My wife had a good time, and she has been exposed to the story because she's like, oh, is this that game that you play that I watch you play sometimes? And I was like, yeah, it's that one with like the kid and the guy. And she's like, oh, okay. So she was a little familiar with it. So it was kind of fun watching it through her eyes because it was a little new for her, but she was familiar enough to know kind of what was going on. But yeah, we all had a great time with the first episode. It's a great to revisit the game through a new TV show because it's been so long since I played the first one. I get reminded of things in the game that I forgot about watching the show. So that just means the adaptation is being very faithful. And I also like that they added, Chris, I don't know, you might not necessarily know about this when it comes, since you haven't played the games, but the shows start off in a similar way where you meet our characters before the kind of like apocalypse comes through. Yep. And it's about Joel and his daughter. And the video game, if I recall correctly, starts off the night that the apocalypse is happening.
Yeah, I did go down the rabbit hole of looking up the differences, right? Just because I don't know, and I'm coming at this, completely, I guess, I wouldn't say sterile, but like very removed from the storyline, right? Other than the drama around this. So yes, I did see that is like the character of Sarah, his daughter Sarah. For people who don't know, it's not Ellie. It's not his daughter. Sarah is given a lot more time, from what I hear, in the show than the game.
And this is the essence, I believe, of what Craig Mazin was talking about on Twitter the other week when he said there are differences between TV shows and video games, and you have to find a way to make death more impactful. And people were giving him some crap for it, which I thought was a little unfair. But this is what they're talking about, right? When you get to actually embody the character and move the character around, play his daughter in the video game, you're almost ingrained and connected to her physically instantaneously, right? When you move your joystick, you move the character around. So when she dies later on in the game, right, you feel so much more connected and immersed to it. So now how do you translate that to a TV show that you're just sitting on your couch watching? Well, one thing that helps is just give us more time with her, right? Let's see her being kind to the neighbor.
You build that relationship, right? Like she's a real person with doing real things. And I don't believe, I can't confirm, was the show wasn't, this show was set during her, quote, quote, I guess, Joel's birthday. I don't know if that was same in the game or not.
Yeah, it might have been. I don't remember the exact finer details then, but it could have been. But either way, the broader strokes were there, and then they added to those strokes to make it feel more impactful because we don't get to interact with any of the story. It just has to be shown to us. So, like, so far everything is just I'm not even cautiously optimistic. I'm nothing but optimistic for how the adaptation is going so far. I love Pedro Pascal. He fit really, really well into the character. The casting was just great so far. So I'm having a great time. Chris, what did I'll stop talking. What did you think about it from somebody that doesn't really know much about the story?
Yeah, trying to remove myself from that. I have one huge complaint, and it's not the show directly, like the whole episode. It's one thing that they always do in any apocalypse movie. Hey, we've slowly been giving you the signs of the apocalypse throughout the day, right, for this person. Mm-hmm. So literally when the TV's like, stay inside, lock your doors, what's the first thing this fucking girl does? She goes outside to return a dog to their neighbor. I'm like, I hate when they do, like, I literally hate when this, and then she's like, oh, there's blood on the floor, I need to creep my way into this house. And get closer to the action. Yes, it builds tension. Yes, it builds this. But every apocalyptic show does this. And, like, that, to me, that's like a huge red flag out the gate. I'm like, stop doing this. Like, literally find better ways to do this, because the same thing over and over again is just predictable. And I'm literally saying, I'm like, this stupid woman, go back in the house. Just go back in the house. Just
Chris,
go back in the house.
You must not underestimate the stupidity of teenagers in a crisis.
Yeah,
they will always do the worst thing possible. We've all been there.
And the last thing I'm not going out into my neighborhood to look around anything. Like, if I hear loud noises, I'm just getting up. I'm hiding. I'm going to my basement and getting away. But that's my biggest red flag, and that is my biggest complaint. The rest of it is a good show. I can't say I'm in love with it yet, right? Because I don't have that affiliation with the characters across two video games that you do, right? But watching again, Pedro Pascal, I don't know the actor's name, so we're going to go into, I believe, his smuggling partner, Tess. Is that her name?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Great. Really kind of quick to show I don't know if the Fireflies carry big in the show either, or the games either. I don't know if they have anything or if that's built for the show. I enjoy the main character and the leader of the Fireflies for that. And hey, here's a journey. The goal is take this girl to this post, and you'll get the stuff you need. Of course, shit's gonna go sideways. It's all gonna go wrong. So it's good to be there at the end of the first episode and not spend forever within the walls of the sanctuary city, if you will.
Yeah. A great fun factoid, which you may already know, Chris, because you're just a repository for factoids, whether you need to have them or not. But the actress that is playing the leader of the Fireflies is the voice actress that did that same character in the video game. And she talked about it in the kind of inside addition to the episode that plays at the end of the HBO stream, where she said she was lucky enough that she was able to age into the character. So she has now reached the age after the games have been made and published where she could be the role. So that is pretty cool. That was like, this feels like her because it is her.
And it's Marlene, is that right? Am I saying? Is that her name?
I think so. I will, throughout the weeks as we review this show, I will never be the one that is going to be an expert on this game. I've just played them casually twice and had a good time. So
I will say the one thing, it did take me out a little bit. The guy who plays Robert, I guess the thug, right? Or I guess the guy who tries to sell his battery twice. He was in Violent Night. I'm like, God, that guy looks really familiar.
Oh, was he? I don't remember.
He is the Cramp. His codename's Krampus in Violent Night. He's like the shorter dude who goes crazy. I'm like, that's what he is. But I mean, yeah, that's beside the show. But yeah, I enjoy the pace. I enjoy building the characters. I just really hated. I loathe that part of the apocalypse because I'm like, everybody does this. Like, I really, really don't like this. Pick something different, but everything else felt fun. I'm anxiously awaiting the arrival of the clickers. In full force. I
think in tonight's episode we're getting some because they're kind of out into the world exploring outside of the walls. So I think we should be getting some clicker action tonight.
And obviously the introduction in the 1960s with John Hannah as the person explaining to us that fungus can take over bodies.
Oh yeah,
that was a really great. Fun little cameo from him.
Yeah, I don't remember if that was included in the game because if it was, it would have been at the very beginning, and I wouldn't remember it at all. Maybe this is still canon, but it was included in tapes or notebooks or clipboards that you could find across the game that was, optional to read. But it was very, very moving. And they were just like, oh, there's nothing to worry about with fungus. But if the planet got warmer and felt the need to adapt, and I was like, oh, shit, no, they got us. We're screwed. Well,
and it's fun to have that little retrospect because the other guy was talking about, viruses being contagious and if it gets on an airplane and goes place, we just literally came out of a pandemic, right, of COVID and everything. So it was interesting to they mentioned it in plain skins, but to also be actually what we're going to talk about is fungus taking over and what it does rather than viruses.
It felt weird without feeling pandering, right? Sometimes you'll go to a new blockbuster movie and the mustache twirling villain just says just literally drops the word oh, climate change. And I'm not a climate change denier, but when you make a narrative around this very real world fact, you have to have a little bit more, finesse to it. So I liked the finesse that they included at the beginning.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think what I said to listener of the show and friend of mine, Patrick, he's a big fan of the games, right? And we were talking about we both we like it. I'm not going to say I'm in love with it yet, right? It's episode 1. This is your pilot episode, but it did get me enough in that I would watch an episode 2, right? I want to watch the next one and follow this. And I absolutely believe I will. Way more than the 11th hour for next week's episode.
Yeah. And I feel like I don't need to go to bat for this show. It's going to be successful and popular no matter what any of us do. But I would say as a reminder, so many of your favorite shows out there in the world, just in general, always start off a little slow, right? I wouldn't be surprised if people are just all right, I'm finally diving into Game of Thrones after hearing all this hype. I don't really think the first episode is really all that engaging. It's like, yeah, the kid falls off the roof, but that's like nothing compared to where the rest of the show goes after that, right? So, yeah, all the best stuff in the world builds.
Yeah.
So,
and so the other bit I caught, I wouldn't say people are, it's not discourse, it's really just more of a question. Like, there's the idea of spores in the game, is that right? And that's how you get infected, is through the spores.
Yeah, and it really, what it boils down to is they just wanted a mechanic in the video game where you had to get a gas mask, right? So, and they're just segments in the game where you have to be a little bit more careful, make sure you have like this mask to get through it. So, and they talk about that as well in the kind of wrap up episode at the end, where the creators are talking about these masks. And it's just, this is the point, right? The point is the virus and the pandemic or the spores or whatever, the cat's already out of the bag. Pandora's box has already been opened, so they're already out there in the world, right? So now it's just be careful. It seems like they're leaning towards like the biting thing, which is what it was in the video game too. It was just like, you just don't want to get too close to the problem, right? And that was always been kind of like the general concept, right? So yeah. And
I think one of the, and this will be my last bit here, and I would say it is a bit spoilery for those who haven't seen it, is there is a scene where it looks to be like a feral child ends up in the quarantine zone, or up to the quarantine zone, and then they do the test, and it turns red in the background. And I noticed that, and then but like the lady's demeanor changes to like very, very like, excited and thrilled, right? Like she's like, oh, and you kind of found the kid was infected. They had to literally put him down, and you find in the next scene where you find Joel 20 years later, burning infected bodies. And I'm like, I saw the red, I'm like, that can't be good, can it? But her actions are telling me otherwise.
Yeah,
this is really caught my wife off guard as well. I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, the bottom line is this is a ruthless world, right? The only sort of like law or government that exists is totalitarian, because unfortunately it's kind of the only thing that you can do to keep people safe in something that's this dangerous, is just to go full on, though you are not allowed to go outside, and if you do, we have to kill you type of thing. So I get it, and it's brutal, and there's only more and more like just like depressing stuff to come, but also really, really cool stuff as well.
Action was good. It sounded good as well, right? When you're watching like a horror action thing, you want the sound to be good. And I think the sound mix was effective, right, for everything kind of going on. So like I said, I've got no huge complaints of the story, just a couple initial things where you fall into a trope and you do it, but like I very much look forward to watching the second episode sooner than later. So anything else? Nope.
No, stay tuned, stay subscribed. We might not talk about The Last of Us every single week, but heck, if we're really digging it, we might.
Yep. 8 more weeks. So episode 2 today goes through 9 episodes, and obviously you can check out the game on any PlayStation console you might have that probably still works. But yeah, you can check that out. So anyway, Mike, people know what you're up to, what you're doing. Where can they find you at, my man?
They can find me at Mike Royer Design on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and you can read my webcomics at pickledcomics.com. Chris, if people want to catch up with you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Valdan87, sorry, I had a cough there, or Twitter, Valdan, Valdan. If people want to know about our show, what we're doing, come back next week for our next round of movie and TV news. Where can they get all that good information at?
Oh, obviously, head on over to Superhero Slate. .com. That is the best place to find all the avenues we host our show, and to get our awesome show notes and upcoming release calendar, 2 very useful tools if you are fans of all of the things that we talk about here on the show. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you love to listen to fine podcasts. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and get merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. Reach out, let us know what you're watching, what you're listening to, what you're playing and rolling in your latest D&D game. I don't know. There's other things outside of TVs and movies, right?
Oh my god! Don't even get started on D&D. Have you heard the everything with that going on with the new?
Wait, what?
So Dungeons and Dragons operates called an open gaming license, right? So if you buy the books, you can make whatever like anything that you create for the game is yours to own. Like you can do whatever you want with it. Well, there's called D&D 1, which is like the next generation of Dungeons and Dragons, like where it's supposed to be like you only have to buy, you know, we're not creating 6th edition, 7th edition, whatever. Well, Wizards of the Coast was like, okay, well, here's this new license agreement, so anything you create, we will actually own at the end of the day. You'll have to like pay us a royalty if you create your own stuff. And like the whole D&D community, they were like, you didn't realize that we don't need your books to make our own game. Like, we have our own imaginations, and we've been running this for like 40 years, 50 years under that. Like, we don't need you to do this. And they have been, not just Wizards, but like the D&D, the people who made it, I don't think had any ill will. I think there's like executives who are like, how can we milk this for more money above them telling them what to do? So like the D&D people, they're running the company, they're like, look, we don't want this, you know, as much as you do. So they're trying to walk back and literally repair relationships with the community because of this week. So that's probably why it was on your mind, probably crossed your Twitter feed at some point. You didn't read it, but like D&D has been in the news in not a good way lately. So there's your fun end of the show factoid for you, Mike, that you didn't know.
Yeah, you heard it from Chris, and that's why you stay till the very end of the episode to get those juicy little nuggets after we start wrapping up. But we love our super fans, so if you want to be a super fan of this show, all you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we'll be here every week, folks.
That's right. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.